We're going to turn now to our GMA cover story and the latest in the story of our next guest, Amanda Knox. She was jailed and later acquitted of the 2007 murder of her roommate, Meredith Kercher, in Italy. But this past January, the country's highest court upheld her slander conviction for falsely accusing her former boss of Meredith's murder. And while she doesn't face any additional jail time, Amanda is still working to clear her name completely and is telling more of her story in a new book called Free, My Search for Meaning. And it's great to have you with us, Amanda. Thanks for being with us on GMA this morning.
Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here.
So in this book, you talk so much about freedom, and it's about mental freedom, it's about physical freedom, and yet you have this small part of your case which has not been overturned. Why write about this through the prism of your experience?
Oh, wow. I mean, so I'm glad you mentioned it, because it's like, I think a lot of people ask me, why don't I move on from this story? And it's like, well, first of all, I remain wrongly convicted, and I am attempting to overturn this wrongful conviction that was based on a retraction of the statements that I was coerced into signing. So it's really a Kafkaesque, gaslighty nightmare that I'm continuing to live. But I think the message and the big takeaway of my book is that all of these external things are happening to us all the time, not just to me. I happen to have a very big, strange, and overwhelming experience, but ultimately we all sometimes feel trapped and like we're not the protagonist. We don't have a say in our own stories and in our own lives. And I think that it's a shift in perspective that took me a long time to develop, that really made me realize that whatever people say about me out in the world doesn't define who I am. I am not boxed in by their narratives. I can stand up on that box and tell my own story.
And it's really poignant. You're sitting in your prison cell at one point in the book, and you talk about where you look, whether you look out the window or you look at the locked door. That has a big difference in how you feel about life and whether you feel free.
Absolutely. Fun fact, I'm claustrophobic, and I've always been claustrophobic. So when I found myself trapped in a prison cell, I was obviously very triggered. And when I would look at that barred door, that solid steel door that I could not open, there wasn't even a handle, I would go into a panic attack. But then a small shift to the window where I could see a bell tower in the distance, or if I looked closely, I could see bunnies frolicking in the grass. That made it possible for me to center myself, to ground myself. And it's really a beautiful metaphor, again, for how do we frame our existence? How do we frame our perspective? How do we see the world clearly so that we can be effective agents in our own lives?
You're a mom now, 2 children, a 3-year-old and a 1.5-year-old. You're 37 years old. What would you tell your 20-year-old self?
Oh, I've had to learn to grieve for my 20-year-old self, because in a way she did not survive her study abroad experience. There was a girl who never had anything bad happen to her, who went there with an open heart and an open mind, and then got thrown into this insane experience. And the person who I was at 20 did not get to come home and did not get to have that life back that she so wanted, to be an anonymous college student. And I guess there's a chapter in the book where I talk about talking to my younger self, as a 20-year-old in prison, talking to my younger self, giving her advice, helping her find her way through. And I wished that me at 37 could be there to say, Amanda, it's not your fault, and you're gonna be okay. You are. And everything that you're grieving that's being stolen from you right now, you're actually so lucky, because you're gonna get it back, and you're gonna be better and stronger for it. And so that's what I would say to her.
Do you talk to your children about the experience? How will you speak to them when they get older?
I thought that I would be having this conversation when Eureka reached the age of your kids at 6, but she's 3 years old already and asking questions. She wants to know the story of when Mommy went to Italy. And I believe in being transparent. I believe in being honest. I don't think that there should be any taboos in conversation between me and my kids. So I always give her very age-appropriate, honest answers. And I've told her the story of when Mommy went to Italy, how someone hurt her friend, and then they hurt Mommy by putting her in prison, and all of that. But I think the bigger thing that I want to convey to my kids is not something that I can say, it's the way that I can be. When I got pregnant with my daughter, I felt an incredible sense of urgency to be okay, so that I wouldn't unconsciously pass on my own trauma and my own baggage onto her. And so I took the steps that I talk about in my book to address head on my trauma. And I feel like now I can show her that what it means to go through the inevitable pains of life, but still be in a place of being okay deep down.
Well, we appreciate you sharing your story with us. The book is a very interesting and wise way of looking at life after everything that you've been through, and we really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
And Free: My Search for Meaning is available now.